So there's going to be a new kid on the block from the stable of Shapurji and Palanji, and it's called Sterling and Wilson Solar. It's a very interesting business, and at ET Now we have with us Mr. Khurshid Daruwala and Mr. Bikesh Ogra. It's a pleasure to have you on our channel. And first thing which I'd like to ask you, and what we want to understand in terms of what is it is in store for our viewers as well as investors. Tell us a little bit about the company, and how did you all get into the solar business?
Okay, so actually we've been in business with Shapurji Palanji Group for the last 3 generations as Sterling Wilson, and historically we were doing electromechanical contracting. That's been our prime business. In 2011 we saw the opportunity for solar come up, and that's when we decided that this will be a large global business, and we have a strength of having our own electromechanical team, which helped us leapfrog this business. And that's how we actually grew to become India's largest company, and then in a short period of time we become the world's largest solar EPC company.
Because you've been responsible for spearheading the entire the solar push as far as the Sterling and Wilson Group is concerned. Tell me a little bit about the different verticals that you'll have in the solar business, and also tell me how did this company get hived off into a separate subsidiary? I'll come to the part of the demerger a little later on, but just give me a brief background of what are the different businesses that you have.
So effectively, in the solar business, which we started in 2011, this has a utility scale business. That is the primary business that we have. We have a rooftop business, and then we have the operation maintenance business. These are 3 verticals that we have in the business, and this company got demerged in order to actually cater to the global requirements and demands that is very, very huge in 2017 as a separate entity as Sterling Wilson Solar Limited.
Perfect. Now the question comes, and it's going to be a tough question, I'm sure, for you to answer. 150 years there hasn't been need for, or there's not been interest from any Shapurji Palanji Group company to actually hit the primary markets. So why now?
Like Bikesh mentioned, actually the solar opportunity has been massive. The other businesses that we are in, which is transmission distribution, data centers, electromechanical, there also we've grown at a global scale. Now those businesses require a large amount of capital. And while the solar as a division has been throwing up a lot of cash, that's helped the other businesses grow. But when I was discussing with Shapurji, I did mention to them that if we want to capture the global opportunity in all these businesses, I think it's time that the solar entity become a standalone strong entity. We list that entity so it can look at the global, it can take the global opportunity. At the same time, that would help us strengthen the other businesses, which also have a large opportunity to go. So I think it's the right time really for us to infuse capital into the Sterling and Wilson Group and make sure that we don't miss out on all the businesses.
Bikesh, I'm going to throw this question at you, but feel free to enter when the answer is going on. So there was a group merger, demerger that did happen. So if you could tell me, which are the businesses that are still under the Sterling and Wilson Group that aren't going to be listed, and which is the company that is coming to the listing, and what exactly this particular company does that is getting listed. Feel free to step in.
So effectively the business which is the businesses which are in the erstwhile Sterling and Wilson sister group are the businesses which are the electric MEP business, which is the diesel generating business, and which is also the data center turnkey business.
Right.
So you have a separate business of gas-based power plants, but that's a different organization. But
right.
this company, which is Sterling Wilson Solar, got demerged out of the Sterling Wilson as a parent, you should say.
Right.
And the businesses that we normally do is the turnkey delivery of projects across the globe. So in India also we have a business which does primarily the balance of plant, but global markets are all turnkey businesses that we do on the utility scale, and also once we finish the projects we do the operation maintenance for a particular duration of time dependent on project to projects.
Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so like Bikesh mentioned that we also have transmission distribution, data centers. So each of those businesses, gas-based power plants, we are working globally. So it is India, Middle East, Africa, US, Europe, etc. So every business is growing, and that's where the group needs to be capitalized, and that's one of the reasons for going for the IPO.
Feel free to answer and omit the points which probably SEBI regulations don't allow you to answer. So what is the purpose of the IPO? Is it a fresh issue or an offer for sale? Around how much are you looking to raise, and how will the proceeds of the IPO be used?
So the total, it's a pure secondary sale. between the two promoters. So we are selling in proportion of our shareholding. And the total issue, we are looking at raising 4,500 crores. A reasonable amount of that would actually be infused as capital again by Shapur and me, Shapurji Palanji and myself, into the non-solar business. Now, like I told you that historically the solar division has been generating most of the cash, which has helped all the other businesses grow. But I think now it's time that that cash goes back to the solar business. Potentially it can become a debt-free company after the IPO because all the money that's been borrowed by solar is actually lent to the non-solar business. So once that's returned, it becomes a strong enough debt-free balance sheet, which then is ready to take on. We are already number one in the world. I think it's important that in a large growing market we sustain this, and this will be one important step in that direction.
Well, we've understood why the IPO is coming out. I also want to understand about the business itself. So what is the current order book at? How many countries are you located in? What percentage of your order book is international? What percentage is India? And how many countries are you present in?
So effectively, if you take a look at the numbers on December, it is around 6,500 order book, which is order book plus LOIs that we have in place, and it is for almost 9 countries. Now this is where I think we have grown ourselves. Like if you take a look at year before last, we were in the same period we were around in 3 countries. Now the fact that we are looking at the opportunities globally, which are in the tune of around 30 odd gigawatts, which will happen say this year, and we are present in 26 countries. So effectively around 70% of that is effectively our addressable markets. Now when you talk about India versus the rest of the world, as of December, the figure stood at around 30% was India and the balance 70% was the rest of the world.
I'm just going to touch a little bit more about the financials of the company. I want to understand the total debt situation currently. What is the debt in the books of Sterling and Wilson Solar, and how will that change? Not in terms of exact figures, because I don't think you've still finalized the amount that's going to come up in the IPO. But how will that change post the IPO?
So like I mentioned, that the debt which stands in solar is actually borrowed in the solar company and actually lent out to the non-solar company. Now this actually came out of the demerger. So it was one entity earlier. As soon as we've demerged it into 2, the stronger entity is the solar entity, and hence all the banks had lent or renewed the loans onto the solar entity. So it's come out of the demerger. So post the IPO, that is the idea that we actually close out this related party transaction completely, where the non-solar business pays back the solar business, and the solar business would pay back the banks. Hence, solar would actually become debt-free post the IPO. That is the idea of taking this forward.
So as a fresh investor, suppose I've been issued shares, if I've been lucky enough into the Sterling and Wilson Solar IPO, what is the addressable market globally as well as locally within India? What is the kind of market I'm looking at? Also, I want to talk. I want you to tell me a little bit about the kind of risks that do exist in the business, because you do a lot of work with governments worldwide. So any kind of risks that exist, you can also feel free to step in terms of the financing that does come in. So the kind of addressable market going forward.
So effectively, just to answer your question in terms of the risks that we have in government interface, for us the risk doesn't exist at all, because all our customers are the blue chip lenders and IPPs, and they have an interface with the government. For us, the risk in interface with the government doesn't exist at all, whether it's in India or whether it's on the global markets. In terms of the outlook of the business, like I said, around China is half of the total global churn, and if you take a look at the other balance of the it's around 49 gigawatts, which translates roughly to around $25 billion. Now effectively for us, the addressable market out of that $25 billion is a substantial amount, because having presence in 26 countries comes to around $12 to $13 billion.
See, actually, if you see on the market side, the IHS data also shows that the market is growing in the addressable market at about 20%. Right. And the beauty of the business is that even in 2022, with all this growth, only about 2.5% of the global electricity will be generated from solar. Right. And that shows you that, yes, there's a huge opportunity going up for the solar business.
So it does look as though the prospects of the company are extremely strong going forward. I'd like to thank both of you so much for your time and for inviting us to this.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.